In the late 1920s, Yan Daokan, a farmer in Sangxingdui, Guangdong, Sichuan, accidentally discovered some stone jade rings, etc. in a small stream, lifting a corner of the mysterious veil of ancient Chu civilization. Half a century later, in the mid-1980s, people in Sangxingdui discovered two sacrificial pits where a large number of bronze masks, bronze heads, bronze sacred trees and a large number of jade tools were buried when they were digging soil and burning bricks. The treasures in the pits were dizzying. Re-understand and examine the ancient Chu civilization. There is a significant connection between the Sangxingdui civilization and the Xia culture, and they are two fruits on one vine. The reason for saying this is because Sangxingdui is the civilization of the ancient Chu kingdom, and Kang Kong, the founding king of the ancient Chu kingdom, was the concubine of Emperor Zhuangzi, so Zhuangzi enshrined his branch concubine in the land of Shu, which is the land of Longxin for the Xia people. After Emperor Zhuangzi there was Deu, whose son Xia Qi founded the country, known as the Xia dynasty in history. They were all born from the same father, so the ancient Chu kingdom and the Xia dynasty were brothers. After Xia Qi founded the country, all the princes and countries respected him as the master of the world. However, since Kong Jia succeeded to the throne as King Xia, he became promiscuous, historical record Xia Benji, ignored government affairs, and devoted himself to hunting and having fun, which made the people resent and the princes rebelled. Due to the weakness of the national power, it is also impossible to control the development of the power of the vassal states. Among the vassal kingdoms of the Xia dynasty, Shang Kingdom, which rose from Shangkaiu, has gradually grown in power since the Shang Jia was destroyed. With the help of Yi Yin, Zhonghui, and others, Shang Tang successively wiped out the neighboring countries of Ji, now Ningling, Shangkaiu, Henan, Fangkuoi, now Huaxian, Henan, later Dapen, and Gu, in today's Fanzhou, Henan, in the Xia dynasty. County, Kunyu, in today's Sichuan, Henan, etc., they were invincible in the world after 11 expeditions, and then wrote Tang Oath, and fought against Xia Ji in Mingtiao, now Fengkayudong, Henan, and finally destroyed Xia. After a meeting of 3,000 princes, Tang was elected as the emperor. His capital was Bo, now southwest of Gushitown, Shangkaiu, Henan, and his country name was Shang. After the Battle of Mingtiao, the earliest successful example of a quick victory in the war through the comprehensive use of fighting scheme, fighting Qiao, fighting Bing, and Yongjian in ancient China, Shang Tang absorbed the Xia dynasty's demise based on the lessons learned. The Tang Dao was issued, requiring the ministers to contribute to the people, and hard work is a matter, otherwise big punishment will kill you. The major events of the country are sacrifices and soldiers. After Shang Tang founded the state, he paid attention to governing the people with leniency. For the remnants of the Xia kingdom, the Xia society was allowed to be preserved and the descendants of Deu were canonized. Therefore, the Shang generation continued to worship in the summer. According to the Xia, Shang, and Zhou dynasties project, the Shang dynasty is divided into the early period, 1600 BC, 1300 BC, and the late period, 1300 BC, 1046 BC. Emperor Xian, King Zhou, the last emperor of the Shang dynasty, was rumored to be cruel and immoral, fascinated by beauty, extravagant, but judging from the combination of archaeological and historical documents, the biggest reason for his failure may be that the country was declining and had to implement reform, and the reform angered a large group of nobles and vested interest groups. Therefore, it is very likely that Zhou of Shang dynasty was not all evil and good for nothing. However, the reason why King Zhou became the king who subjugated the country, and why King Wu became the king who founded the country must also have a reason. The so-called whoever wins the hearts of the people wins the world follows the trend. The reason why Wei Ziki went to Shangzhou can also explain some problems. Similarly, the Western Zhou dynasty in the era of King Wu may not be as beautiful as people imagined. Otherwise, why did Boyai Shuki insist on not eating Zhou millet and perishing? Boyai Uncle Qi Boyai and Shu Qi were the two princes of Lord Guzu in the late Shang dynasty. According to legend, Mr. Guzu ordered his third son, Shu Qi, to be the king. After the death of Mr. Guzu, Shu Qi gave way to Boyai, but Boyai didn't accept it. Shu Qi respected Tianlun and didn't want to disrupt the social rules, and he didn't succeed to the throne. The two went abroad to investigate Zhou. King Wu of Zhou attacked Zhou, and the two buckled their horses to remonstrate. After King Wu destroyed Shang, they were ashamed to eat Zhou millet, plucked weeds, and ate them, and starved to death in Shaoyang Mountain. See Lushi Chunkai Cheng Lian, Historical Records Biography of Boyai, the Analects of Confucius Gonggai Chang. Boyai and Shuki don't remember the old and evil, but use hope for resentment. King Wu defeated Zhou, and the Zhou people attacked. The ancient Chu people, survivors of the Xia dynasty, who went through the Shang dynasty, knew that the Zhou people had destroyed the ancestral temples in Shaanxi. They were worried that the ancestral temples of the Xia dynasty that worshipped their ancestors would be destroyed, so they hurriedly buried them from being destroyed. Duguangjia itself is the place where the Xia people thrived, and Meng Delin speculated that Sangxingdui might be the south nest where Xiaji was exiled. Since Sangxingdui belongs to the late Shang dynasty after repeated carbon-14 measurements, there should be some texts left, not just a few words. So, is there really no writing unearthed? Although no one has publicly claimed to have found any text from the unearthed cultural relics, the Sangxingdui has been found to be far more than 8 pits. So far, the 8 pits that have been excavated account for less than 20,000 square meters of archaeological excavation area of the Sangxingdui site, which is only about 1,000th of the entire Sangxingdui site. In this round of archaeological excavations starting in 2020, in the first stage, the archaeological team first focused on excavating pits 3 to 6. Pit number 3 is full of ivory piles, and bronze, jade, and gold wares are magnificent. The jade Kong with typical characteristics of Chinese civilization was extracted and unearthed in pit number 4, which confirms the cultural exchange and interaction between Sangxingdui and the surrounding areas at the same time. A huge gold mask was unearthed from pit number 5, and the Central Plains culture did not have a tradition of using gold in large quantities during the same period, which highlights the splendor of the Sangxingdui culture. Pit number 6 clearly found extremely rare wooden boxes. From April 2021, the archaeological excavation of the sacrificial area of the Sangxingdui site will enter the second phase. Star cultural relics such as the kneeling figure on the top of pit number 3 and the largest bronze mask were extracted and unearthed one after another. Pit number 6 was extracted in its entirety. With the clearing of the ash layer, the small and beautiful number 7 pit and the number 8 pit with heavy weapons were revealed. From October 2021 to the present, the archaeological excavation of the sacrificial area of the Sangxingdui site has entered the third stage. After nearly 3 years of continuous exploration and excavation, the archaeological excavation of 6 newly discovered sacrificial pits has entered the final stage. A total of 1,834 square meters have been excavated, and nearly 13,000 cultural relics have been unearthed. Pit number 7, with the discovery of a turtle-shaped grid in the northeast corner, ushered in the treasure of the pit. After cleaning, archaeologists discovered a large piece of gold at its bottom. At present, the excavation of pit number 7 is drawing to a close. In pit number 8, the bronze altar, the bronze statue of the top standing upside down, and the figure with skirt and standing hair are exquisitely shaped, very rare, and vividly reproduce the ideal spiritual world of the ancient Chu people. At present, the overall excavation progress of pit number 8 is more than half. Recently, a number of newly unearthed cultural relics in Sangxingdui have become the focus of worldwide attention. Let's focus on a few of them and make a bold guess. Bronze altar, Four Mountains altar. The unearthed bronze altar is amazing. No matter how you look at it, it is a bit like the situation of Dao controls the water, and the Four Mountains assist him. The so-called Four Mountains refer to the family of Yan Emperor Zhurong after the water god Gonggong. Lu Xian, a famous minister in the last years of the Western Han Dynasty, the fourth brother of Han Jiaozi Lu Bang, the fifth grandson of Chu Yuan Wan Liu Jiao, the son of Zhongzhen Lu Xiang, was renamed Lu Xiu in the first year of Jianping, 6 BC, Shang Shan Haijing Biao said. The Shan Haijing was written during the Tang and Yu dynasties. In the past, floods overflowed and spread across China. Zhe, Suishan publishes Wood. Determines the high mountains and the great rivers. Yi and Boyai are the masters of driving animals, ordering the mountains and rivers, resembling vegetation, and distinguishing water and soil. The Four Mountains assist them, and use the 4 directions to catch the rare places where people are rarely seen, and the rare places where boats and public opinion are rarely seen. The mountains in the 5 directions are separated inside, and the seas in the 8 directions are divided into the outside. Its treasures and wonders are born in different places, where the water, soil, vegetation, animals, insects, lins, and phoenixes stop, and the auspicious places are hidden. Special kind of people. Use Kyushu, let the soil do tribute, and Yi and other similar things, good and evil, wrote the Shan Haijing. All are the legacy of sages and sages, as well as those who are famous in ancient prose. The truth is clear and credible. Turtle mesh. In addition to the traces of silk fabrics left on it under the microscope, the most important thing is that it actually has two bronze metal thin strips, which are similar to slightly wider ribbons. Do this? What is the use of this? At present, all parties are reviewing the information, but it is still unknown. Because this thing was unearthed for the first time in archaeology, it is unique. Bronze statue of Ding Bing and standing upside down, combined with the bird's foot portrait unearthed in 1986. The statue of human head and bird body with 3 stars piled up on the top of the bronze sacred tree. Don't call me a bird, don't call me a stupid bird, I have a name. My name is Jamang, the god of wood and spring in ancient mythology. Its original face is a bird, with a bird body and a human face, riding 2 dragons. Jamang has a very broad management. It not only needs to John Ladong to go to spring to germinate and grow trees, but also loyally assists Xia Hao, one of the 5 emperors, in charge of the land of rising sun in the east. It is the time teller who never misses the time, year after year, day after day. Every morning, when the sun rises from Fuzhang, Jamang is in charge of supervision. When the time comes, it is common to have 2 voices. Of course, the sacred tree Fuzhang under his feet is also in charge of Kui Jamang. Next, watch this, feathered serpent. My god, a feathered snake was unearthed in Sangxingdui. There is currently only one feathered snake in this world, that is the feathered snake god in the Mayan culture of America. This Sangxingdui feathered snake has diamond-shaped patterns on its body, or it can be called a winged snake. This is the first feathered snake discovered in the country, and so far, the only one. If you are not careful, it may support the conclusion of an article published by the author. The Mayans, Indians, and Incas are all inextricably linked to China, and both Indians and Incas are descendants of Yin and Shang. Because the Sangxingdui civilization also belongs to the late Shang dynasty. 3-hole jade wall, what kind of cutting process can cut out such a smooth round hole? In addition to these high-gloss cultural relics, many people may have missed a more important thing, that is, the unremarkable copper scroll. The level of craftsmanship is against the sky, and the metal is made into a volume of books. That's the point. Bronze scroll, Xia, Wan list, Wan memorabilia. How is it possible that the text is still not found? Did you find any text? Since it belongs to the late Shang dynasty, the Shang dynasty obviously left writing, and Sangxingdui should have left writing. From the photos posted on the internet, it can be seen indistinctly from the published pictures that the surface of the Sangxingdui bronze is densely covered with hidden words. But why doesn't this look like bronze? Some netizens interpreted these words rubbed from the seal of Sangxingdui as, Dihao guards the family. In recent decades, no scholar has published any academic articles on the reading of Sangxingdui bronze wares. In the absence of research on the reading of Sangxingdui bronzes, no matter how many cultural relics are unearthed in archaeology, it is still impossible to get a glimpse of the truth of Sangxingdui civilization. In this regard, some netizens have opened their minds and gathered all the rumors that have been circulated to become the story of the ancient figures in Bashu. The Yellow Emperor was born in Haishui, Lizu was born in Yanting, Sichuan, Guangxu was born in Ruoshui, Sichuan, Dao was born in Wenchuan, Fuxi's mother was born in Langhuasu Kingdom, Hao Yi Changyi landed on the moon in Zikane, Nuwa mended the sky in Yan, Jia Yuban Neahai, Pengziu in Penshan, Chengdu, Ghost City in Chongqing, Erlang God in Tujianjian, Taizhang Lejun practiced in the Qingchen mountain area. Foreign netizen, wait a minute, everything is from your place, why don't you go to heaven? More people are on their way. 6,000 to 7,000 years ago, the Chengdu plain was still a lake and swamp, flooded and uninhabitable at all. Even in the Tang and Song dynasties, there were still some lakes on the Chengdu plain. This is the basis for the author to take a boat from a certain lake to Chengdu in the third part of the tetralogy 8,000 miles of rivers and mountains of Kunyu Jishen. Therefore, most of the nearby Chinese ancestors first lived in the Minshan Mountains, and the first group of ancestors who entered Shu was about 5,000 years ago. According to textual research, the place where they settled is today's Xifang. At the same time, many large and small cities successively appeared on the Chengdu plain, at least 7 or 8 of them. About 4,000 to 4,800 years ago, an ancient alpine city appeared in Dai, Chengdu. which is the ruins of the ancient Alpine city in Dai discovered by archaeology today. A clay pot was found in the ruins of this ancient mountain city. There are 2 holes under the pot. Archaeologists have studied it for a long time and speculated that this thing may be a specially invented water filter. In addition, a walnut that was played by the owner was found among the burial objects of the tomb. This is the earliest Wenwan walnut unearthed in the world so far, and it is also covered with pulp, about 4,000 to 4,800 years ago. At that time, people living in the ancient city of Jasehan had a peculiar custom. Almost all adult people had their 2 front teeth deliberately chiseled out, so the phenomenon of chiseled teeth appeared in the remaining bones. During this period of time, the most famous of all ancient cities is probably Shingen Baeodun. The Shingen Baeodun site was about 4,000 years ago and was the largest city in the Yangtze River Basin at that time. It is a pity that the site of Baeodun city in Shingen was finally destroyed by the flood. Why so sure? Because archaeologists discovered a thick layer of silt at the bottom, it must have been eroded by raging floods in the end. How did Sanxingdui develop in the same period of time? After nearly 1,000 years of development, it has become a large settlement with an area of about 5 square kilometers. According to the results of the second phase of research, Sanxingdui had built a thick and terrifying city wall about 4,000 to 3,600 years ago, covering all 4 directions of the southeast, northwest, and surrounding the city. After 5 years of continuous excavation, the north wall of Sanxingdui ancient city was successfully found, and it was confirmed that Sanxingdui ancient city was encircled. Why is the city wall said to be terrifying? Because after connecting the city walls and measuring it, it was found that its area reached an astonishing 3.6 square kilometers. You know, even the Forbidden City after 1800 is only about 1/5 of the ancient city of Sanxingdui. It can be seen that Sanxingdui had begun to take the shape of a large city at that time, and at least tens of thousands of people could live in it. During this period, Sanxingdui civilization developed rapidly towards its peak. Between 3,600 and 3,200 years ago, it was the time period when Sanxingdui reached the peak of civilization. Sanxingdui Phase 3, Qingguanshan Palace, F1 large house site. The area of the site is more than 1,000 square meters. At this time, the city scale of the entire Sanxingdui ancient city has gradually expanded to 12 square kilometers. About 3,200 years ago, for some reason, the people of Sanxingdui burned and smashed all the important ritual vessels in the Xiaoshe ancestral temple, including gold, bronze, ivory, etc., and finally buried them in the pits of the Sanxingdui site. Since then, Sanxingdui has declined and lost its trace in the long river of history. The Sanxingdui civilization suddenly disappeared, which puzzled archaeologists. After that, for a long time, people did not know where those people in Sanxingdui went. It was not until 2001 that the Jinsha ruins were discovered. On the afternoon of February 8, 2001, in the northwest suburb of Chengdu, Jinsha village, a real estate company is carrying out road construction and excavating sewer pipes in the development area. At this time, someone found a large number of bones, actually large and thick ivory, in the excavated soil, as well as some stone men, round stone tools and some bronze wares and so on, so they shouted loudly, "Treasures have been dug." After calling the police, archaeologists heard the news and rushed to the scene, only to see that the ground was already in a mess. Jade bai, jade jang, stone man, stone bai, and a large number of bronze wares were scattered all over the place, and a large number of dug up ivory were also found, and immediately realized that this was a major discovery, because in the archaeological history of Sichuan in recent decades, only in the 2 artifact pits of Sanxingdui did ivory, jade, and other artifacts be found, which are extremely precious. With rare ancient artifacts, about 2.3 to 2.5 tons of ivory were excavated at the place where the house was being built. During the excavation of the ivory, an expert found that the newly unearthed ivory had a certain degree of oxidation without exception. For cultural relics, oxidation is very fatal and will make the cultural relics lose their original value. For the archaeological team at that time, they did not have the technology to vacuum protect so many ivory, so they buried the ivory back underground and waited for the day when the technology was fully prepared before digging again. Since 2001, in order to cooperate with the basic construction, Lanyuan, Jinsha Garden, Yansha Courtyard, Zhangwan Mansion, Furong Garden, Boya Court Rime, archaeological exploration and excavation have been carried out in more than 30 locations, including Chenyahuajian, Qin Hexenjinj, Yangjianwan. The above are the names of real estate development buildings, and the excavated area has reached more than 100,000 square meters so far. Through large-scale investigation and excavation work, we have a preliminary understanding of the distribution range, geographical topography, age, and cultural nature of the Jinja site, as well as people's living conditions, funeral customs, and religious sacrifices at that time. Although the Sanxingdui civilization disappeared, the Jinja civilization emerged shortly thereafter. Therefore, archaeologists finally know that after the Sanxingdui ancient city disappeared, the center of ancient Chu moved to Jinja. 2,600 years ago, entered the spring and autumn period and the Warring States period. According to archaeological evidence, at this time, some people are still maintaining the ancient city of Sanxingdui. Therefore, the Sanxingdui civilization in the ancient Chu kingdom lasted at least 2,200 years, from about 4,800 years ago to 2,600 years ago. The Sanxingdui civilization is the only ancient civilization discovered in China that has lasted for such a long time without a break in the middle. However, I still have to say that when some experts explain Sanxingdui, they always rely on the sacrifices. Although there is no big problem in saying this, it is not entirely correct. The roots of sacrifices are, one is to respect heaven, and the other is to worship the ancestors of Dharma. Those who respect the sky, the reason is that astronomy is used to establish a family, imitating astronomy to set up a humanistic social system and system. The so-called mandate of heaven is also true. Why did the Chinese ancestors do this? The reason is very simple, because relying on the sky to observe the universe, relying on the sky to make astronomical calendars, relying on the sky to eat, relying on the sky to fill the stomach, relying on the sky to survive and reproduce. What is Pazu? That is to imitate the ancestors, the above behavior. In this context, it is said that the great affairs of the country lie in the worship and the army. At last, let's take a look at these. We didn't say who copied whom. It should be pointed out that some people on the internet, I don't know why, I don't study history well, I use ancient Egypt, Babylon, and Sumer to talk about things every day, and confuse the crowd, claiming that Chinese civilization came from the West, because of the hieroglyphs, bronzes, golden masks, and over there. Very similar. However, the things over there were originally made with reference to Chinese counterfeiting, and the old-fashioned craftsmanship is not as good as that of Beijing Panjiawan. Why is it so strange to look like it? Please remember. Referring to the time series of Chinese civilization, Scaliger established the chronological system of Western history, whose general outline is Jesus Chronicle, which derived from it the Western classical civilization that will become famous in the future, namely ancient Greece, ancient Rome, ancient Egypt, ancient Babylon. Back then, when we made up history, we only creatively made up the story of Babylon about the Mesopotamia, Euphrates and Tigris. As for the Hittite civilization, Assyrian civilization, and Sumerian civilization, there was not even a ghost. Napoleon, governor, led more than 140 experts, scholars, and soldiers to make fakes in ancient Egypt and helped Hazar Judah compile past history, while the British made fakes in Mesopotamia. The so-called Sumerian civilization was invented by the famous Christian archaeologist and British Sir Charles Bernard Woolley, 1880 to 1960, who led the British Museum and the University of Pennsylvania from 1922 to 1934. The archaeological team excavated the ruins of the ancient Sumerian city of Ur in Iraq. As a result, due to the lack of modern geographical knowledge, they did not realize the omissions of saline alkali tidal flats and alluvial plains at the time of the fraud, which made a big joke. Because China has the longest history, compared with it, Westerners pale in comparison, so they desperately falsified, hoping to compare with the East. Even the famous Rooster Club copied the rules, compasses and squares, from Fuxi and Nuwa's hands in order to show that they are mysterious and tall. Moreover, the Rooster Club also has a name called Rule Club. Freemasonry 300th Anniversary Celebration. Domestic Carnival Shopping Festival, details are the devil, please compare by yourself. Don't make wild guesses, people can say it openly. Anyway, what the West copied was from our ancestors, we just copied it back. As for the copied things, have they deteriorated? Nobody knows. As long as there is a baby at home, it is normal for others to be jealous, and they will always be missed. If you don't want to repeat the scene of the 8 power allied forces, you have to work hard to make your family stronger, and no one can bully you. At the same time, I have to keep my eyes open and cherish it.